Hello, friends, and welcome back. I hope you're all doing well by God's grace. Let's start the new episode. First part is here. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe the channel. Let's go. The courtroom doors didn't just open, they exploded inward with a force that made every head snap toward the entrance. The sharp echo ricocheted across the walls, silencing even the whispers that had filled the room moments before. Then came the sound, steady, deliberate, unmistakable. The clicking of heels against polished tile. Each step landed like a gunshot. Robyn Brown had arrived. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She walked forward with a trembling intensity, clutching a folder so tightly in her hands that her knuckles had turned pale. Inside that folder wasn't just paper, it was destruction. Not just of a marriage. Not just of a man. But of an entire illusion the world had believed for years. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as she moved past the rows of spectators. Some recognized her instantly. Others leaned forward, sensing that whatever was about to happen would change everything. Because this wasn't television anymore. This wasn't scripted. This was war. And Robyn wasn't here to cry. She was here to end it. The folder shook slightly in her grip as she reached the front. Inside it lay proof, layer upon layer of carefully hidden betrayal. Evidence of lies so deep they had rotted through the very foundation of everything they had built. Infidelity, deception, financial manipulation, and something even worse. A secret no one saw coming. Kody Brown had a fifth wife. The reality show cameras had stopped rolling long ago, but the real story had only just begun. No edits. No retakes. No carefully crafted narratives. Just raw truth clawing its way into the light. And that truth was about to detonate. Kody Brown had been arrested at midnight. No warning. No final words. No time to prepare. Just the cold snap of handcuffs and the quiet collapse of a carefully constructed empire. The charges were brutal. Fraud. Emotional manipulation. Theft of property. Bigamy. And something the courtroom seemed to feel more than understand, marital deception on a scale that went beyond betrayal and into calculated control. Now, inside that Utah courtroom, everything would come out. Not slowly. Not gently. But all at once. Like a grenade tossed into a silent room. Kody sat in chains, his posture stiff, but his eyes restless. Gone was the confident patriarch persona. Gone was the man who once commanded attention with charm and certainty. In his place sat someone cornered, someone unraveling. Yet even now, there was defiance in his stare. "If I go down," he muttered, voice low but sharp enough to cut through the tension, "I'm taking all of you with me." His eyes locked onto Robyn. But she didn't flinch. She smiled. Because she knew something he didn't. She still had one last card to play. And it was signed by him. The room fell into a silence so heavy it felt unnatural. Even the air seemed to hesitate, as if unsure whether to move or hold its breath. Robyn took the stand. Her transformation was undeniable. The woman who once appeared soft, pleading, and devoted was gone. In her place stood someone colder. Sharper. Calculated. Focused. She hadn't come for closure. She had come for an ending. For years, she began, her voice steady despite the storm beneath it. "I believed I was the chosen one. The favorite." A quiet murmur passed through the gallery. "But I wasn't," she continued. "I was the easiest to deceive." The revelation hit harder than expected. Because it wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about design. She explained how the truth had reached her. Not in one dramatic moment, but in fragments. Missing money. Strange absences. Whispers that didn't make sense until they suddenly did. And then, the discovery that shattered everything. Kody had married another woman. Secretly. Illegally. Behind all of their backs. Even hers. The courtroom stirred, tension building like pressure before a storm. "Do you have proof?" the judge asked, adjusting his glasses. Robyn didn't hesitate. "Yes." She reached into the folder and pulled out a worn envelope. Inside it was a document that carried the weight of everything. A marriage certificate. Signed. Stamped. Undeniable. But that wasn't the moment that broke the room. What came next did. Robyn turned. Slowly. Deliberately. And pointed. Stand up. Every head in the courtroom snapped toward the same direction. A woman in the third row rose to her feet. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look ashamed. She looked composed, powerful, unapologetic. State your name, the judge ordered. The woman met his gaze, then spoke. I'm Kody's wife. The reaction wasn't just shock. It was chaos. Gasps turned into noise. Noise turned into disbelief. Because the woman standing there wasn't a stranger. She was someone they all knew. Angela, the nanny. The same woman who had cared for the children. The same woman who had been welcomed into the home. Trusted, relied upon, protected, and now revealed as the center of the deepest betrayal of all. Robyn didn't look away. Her voice, when she spoke again, carried both pain and fury. I trusted you. Angela didn't apologize. I loved him. The room felt like it was splitting in half. What followed wasn't just testimony. It was dismantling. Piece by piece. Robyn laid everything out. Emails, bank transfers, hidden accounts, a secret property purchased under Angela's name, money moved through shell companies, signatures that tied it all back to one man. Kody didn't interrupt. He didn't deny it. Because he couldn't. Each document was another crack. Each revelation another collapse. Angela eventually took the stand. And she didn't hide. He told me it was over, she said plainly. That they were only together for appearances. Robyn's voice cut through immediately. That's a lie. The courtroom leaned in. He told me I was the future, Angela continued. That he needed something new. Robyn laughed. But there was no humor in it. New, she said bitterly. That's what he called it? The judge tried to restore order. But it was slipping. Fast. Because this wasn't just about love anymore. It was about manipulation. Control. A system built on lies. Angela revealed more. Payments made to keep her silent. Non-disclosure agreements. Promises of a future that never existed. Then came the moment that changed everything again. She pulled out a flash drive. I have proof, she said. The courtroom erupted. Because suddenly, this wasn't just a personal scandal. It was something bigger. Something criminal. And somewhere in the back of the room, unnoticed by most, a man in a gray suit watched everything unfold. Silent. Still. Waiting. Because the truth hadn't fully surfaced yet. Not even close. The moment the flash drive changed hands, the entire courtroom shifted. What had begun as a scandal of betrayal now carried the unmistakable weight of something far more dangerous. The air itself seemed tighter, heavier, like a storm pressing down just before it broke. Even the judge, who had maintained composure through every shocking revelation so far, leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing as the device was placed into evidence. This wasn't just another piece of proof. This was escalation. Kody's attorney rose immediately, objecting with urgency, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. He cited privacy violations, questioned the legality of the evidence, demanded time for review. But the objection came too late. The damage had already begun. Because Angela wasn't bluffing. And everyone in that room could feel it. The judge hesitated only for a moment before allowing the evidence to be entered into the record. A decision that sent a ripple of murmurs through the courtroom, growing louder until the bailiff had to call for order once more. Kody remained seated, but something had changed. For the first time since his arrest, his confidence cracked. It wasn't obvious to everyone, but it was there. A tightening of his jaw. A flicker in his eyes. The smallest fracture in the mask he had worn for years. Because whatever was on that drive, he hadn't planned for it. Angela returned to her seat, but her composure was no longer as flawless as before. There was a tremor now subtle, but present. She had crossed a line, and she knew it. Because the truth didn't just expose Kody. It implicated her too. Robyn, however, sat straighter. For a brief moment, a flicker of satisfaction passed across her face. Not because she had won, but because the battlefield had finally shifted in her favor. The courtroom fell into a tense silence as technicians prepared to review the contents of the drive. Screens flickered to life. Documents began loading. Names, numbers, transactions, an entire hidden world slowly revealing itself piece by piece. And then, the whispers started. LLCs, offshore accounts, multiple transfers. It wasn't just money. It was a system. Angela was called back to the stand. This time, her tone was different. Less composed. More urgent. He made me sign NDAs, she said, her voice steady but edged with something deeper. Multiple ones. Over the course of a year. The judge leaned forward. For what purpose? To keep me quiet, she replied. He said once everything was in place, we'd go public. That I just had to wait. Robyn's head snapped toward her. This wasn't in the file she had presented. This was new. Angela continued. I was paid through accounts that weren't in his name. The money came through a shell company, registered under a different address. He said it was for protection. Protection from what? The judge asked. Angela hesitated, then answered. From being exposed. The courtroom erupted again. Because this wasn't just deception anymore. It was premeditated, calculated, engineered. Kody's attorney stood again, more aggressively this time, but even he seemed to realize the ground beneath him was crumbling. Because every word Angela spoke added another layer. Another connection. Another thread in a web that was becoming impossible to ignore. Robyn's lawyer seized the moment. Your Honor, he said calmly, in light of this testimony, we request immediate access to all financial records linked to the entities mentioned. The judge didn't hesitate this time. Granted. That single word hit harder than any accusation. Because it meant everything was about to be uncovered. Kody finally spoke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But enough. You think this is the whole story, he said, his voice low, almost detached. You don't know anything. The room went still. Even the reporters stopped writing. Angela looked at him. For the first time, there was fear in her expression. Because she realized something she hadn't before. She wasn't just a witness. She was part of the story. And then Kody said the words that fractured the room all over again. She wasn't the first. Silence. Complete. Absolute. Robyn froze. Angela blinked. The gallery leaned forward as one. Kody exhaled slowly, almost like a man unburdening himself. You all think this started with her, he continued. It didn't. And it won't end with her either. The reaction was explosive. Christine stood up first, anger breaking through her restraint. You lied to all of us. Mary followed, her voice shaking. You used me. Janelle didn't speak, but the look on her face said everything. Robyn didn't move. She just sat there, as if the weight of it all had finally reached her. The judge slammed the gavel, calling for order again and again until the noise finally subsided. But the damage was done. Because now, this wasn't just about one secret. It was about a pattern. Robyn's attorney stood once more, voice calm but cutting. Your Honor, based on the defendant's own admission, we believe this extends far beyond a single relationship. We request a full forensic audit of all associated financial entities. Another pause. Another decision. Another shift. Approved. And just like that, the walls closed in. Within minutes, court officials were coordinating with external agencies. Documents were flagged. Accounts identified. Transactions traced. And outside the courtroom, the story was already spreading. Headlines shifted in real time. From scandal to investigation. Angela sat frozen. Because she understood now. There was no stepping away from this. No clean exit. Robyn, on the other hand, had found her footing again. But something inside her had changed. Because beneath the anger, beneath the determination, there was something else. A need to understand. She turned toward Angela. Quietly. Almost too quietly to hear. When did it start? Angela met her eyes. And for a moment, the hostility faded. Replaced by something almost human. Before you, she said. The words landed like a blade. Robyn's breath caught. What do you mean? Angela didn't look away. You weren't the beginning, she said. You were part of the plan. Something inside Robyn broke. Not loudly. Not visibly. But completely. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The money. The distance. The lies. It hadn't been chaos. It had been design. And she had been part of it. The session ended shortly after. Not because the truth had run out, but because there was too much of it. As Kody was led away, he paused just long enough to glance back. "You wanted the truth," he said. Robyn stood, met his gaze, and answered, "I'm not done yet." Outside, the world was already on fire. News vans lined the streets. Reporters shouted questions that no one answered. Cameras flashed endlessly. Angela slipped out through a side exit, hidden beneath a hood, her steps quick, her breathing uneven. Her phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. "Don't say anything about the money." She stopped. Read it again. Then deleted it. But the fear remained. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. Inside, Robyn stood alone for a moment in the emptying hallway. The noise of the outside world felt distant. Muted. "He tricked us all," she said quietly to the reporters who had managed to get close enough. Then she looked straight ahead. Eyes sharp. Voice steady. "But I'm done crying." A pause. Now it's war. And somewhere in the courtroom, left behind on a table covered in evidence, sat a second flash drive. Smaller. Unmarked. Waiting. Because the next session wouldn't just reveal more. It would change everything. Morning didn't arrive gently. It descended. Heavy. Ominous. Charged with the kind of tension that made even the air feel difficult to breathe. By sunrise, the courthouse was already locked down. Barricades lined the perimeter. Security had doubled overnight. Metal detectors hummed constantly as officers scanned every person who entered, their faces tight with focus. Because everyone knew, whatever was about to happen today would not be contained. Inside, the atmosphere had changed completely. The earlier chaos, the emotional explosions, the raw confrontations, they were gone. In their place was something colder, more dangerous. Precision. Robyn Brown entered first. Her steps were slower now, but not from hesitation. Every movement felt deliberate, measured. Her hair was pinned back tightly, her expression unreadable. In her hands was a thick binder far heavier than the folder she had carried before. This wasn't just evidence anymore. This was a weapon. Angela followed. Gone was the composure she once wore like armor. Now there was tension in every movement. Her shoulders were stiff. Her eyes flickered constantly, scanning the room as if expecting someone, to appear. Because she knew something the others didn't. There was still one more truth buried beneath everything. And it was worse than all of it. Then came Kody. Escorted by federal marshals, wrists chained, posture rigid. But his eyes were searching. He scanned the gallery once. Twice. Then stopped. A man sat in the back row. Gray suit. Impeccable posture. A watch that caught the light with quiet arrogance. He didn't move. Didn't react. But he was watching. And when Kody saw him, his face drained of color. The judge entered. The jury took their seats. The room settled into silence. But it wasn't calm. It was anticipation. This court is now in session. Robyn stood. Not with fury this time. With control. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady and sharp, "we would like to revisit the financial structure connected to Cedar Vale properties." Kody didn't look at her, but his hands tightened slightly against the chains. Her attorney stepped forward, continuing seamlessly. "We have traced over $340,000 through this entity. Funds that were redistributed across multiple accounts, including offshore holdings and unregistered properties." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Brown," he said firmly, "you will answer directly. Are you affiliated with this company?" A pause. A calculated one. "No," Kody said. Too smooth. Too prepared. Robyn smiled faintly, then lifted a document. "Then perhaps you can explain this." The paper was passed forward. The courtroom watched as the judge examined it. And then his expression changed. Because there it was. Kody's signature. Clear. Undeniable. Not just his name. His full identity. Attached to the foundation of a hidden financial network. A murmur spread through the room. But it died quickly. Because something bigger was coming. Angela stood. Without being called. I need to correct something, she said. The judge hesitated, then nodded. Every eye in the room locked onto her. She reached into her bag, pulled out a second flash drive. Smaller, marked with a single letter. X, this contains communications, she said quietly, between Kody and someone he called a consultant. The courtroom leaned in. But that's not what he was. Angela's eyes shifted, just slightly, toward the back of the room. The real name is in the metadata. The drive was submitted. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. The clerk read the name, and the room went cold. A former producer, from the very show that had made them famous. A man who had disappeared years ago after an internal scandal that never reached the public. Now connected to fraud, money laundering, asset concealment. Robyn's breath caught, because suddenly, everything made sense. The strange edits, the missing footage, the unexplained financial shifts. It hadn't just been Kody. It had been orchestrated. From the inside. Angela spoke again. He used me, she said. Then looked at Robyn. He used both of us. For a moment, everything stopped. Two women, on opposite sides of betrayal, now standing in the same truth. And behind them, a system collapsing. The judge reviewed the contents in silence. Then Kody leaned toward his attorney, whispered something. The attorney stood. Your Honor, my client would like to make a deal. The words hit like thunder, because a deal meant one thing. There was more. On what terms? The judge asked. Full disclosure, the attorney replied. All properties, all communications. In exchange for leniency. The judge turned. Mrs. Brown. Robyn didn't answer immediately. She looked at Angela, then back at Kody, and nodded. Proceed. The session was suspended, but the storm didn't stop, because outside, it had already exploded. Headlines dominated every screen, every platform, every conversation. And inside the evidence system, there was one final file, untouched, labeled, Do not release the next morning. The courtroom felt different, heavier, like it was holding its breath. The judge made it clear. The contents of the final file had been decrypted overnight, and what it contained would be reviewed carefully. Robyn's attorney objected, argued for transparency, for the jury to hear it. After a long pause, the judge agreed. One clip. Just one. The recording began. Kody's voice. Clear. Cold. I need Angela in place before the LLC matures, or the timeline collapses. A pause. Another voice. The producer. She'll stay quiet. Just keep promising her the marriage. Silence. Then Kody again. Robyn won't suspect anything. She's too focused on the image. The reaction was immediate. Explosive. Reporters dropped pens. Jurors shook their heads. Robyn's hand clenched into a fist so tight it trembled. Angela began to cry. Because in that moment, everything became undeniable. She wasn't chosen. She was placed. A pawn. The judge ordered the rest sealed. But it didn't matter. The truth was already out. Angela stood again, this time shaking. He told me I'd be safe, she said. That I'd never have to worry. She pulled out a document. Fresh. Official. A property deed. In her name. I never signed this, she said. Forgery. Debt. Liability. Robyn stared at it in horror. Because if he had done that to Angela, what had he done to her? Find everything, she whispered to her lawyer. Across the room, Kody laughed. Not loudly. Not wildly. Cold. Empty. You all act like victims, he said. I built everything. I kept it running. And now you turn on me? The judge cut him off. But the damage was done. Because now everyone saw him clearly. Not as a husband. Not as a father. But as an architect. Of manipulation. Of control. Of a system designed to benefit him alone. The ruling came swiftly. Accounts frozen. Assets seized. A grand jury scheduled. Federal charges imminent. Angela sat down slowly. Still trapped. Even in truth. Robyn remained standing. Because her fight wasn't over. Not yet. On the evidence table, one final document remained. A transcript. Labeled, Session 0, the beginning. Cody's voice filled the silence once more. If I play this right, I won't just be remembered. A pause. I'll rewrite the rules. Outside, storm clouds gathered above the courthouse. Dark. Unforgiving. And inside, everything had changed. This wasn't a scandal anymore. It wasn't even just a trial. It was a reckoning. And as Robyn walked out of that courtroom one final time, she didn't look back. Because she already knew. This wasn't the end. It was the fall of everything that had been built on lies. And for the first time, the truth wasn't buried. It was louder than all of them. First part is over. Thanks for watching this video. Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because believe me, the tea is still brewing. And the next video on your screen.